to this computer. Okay, so it is Sunday, June 23rd, 2019, and we are trying to have a workshop, a storytelling workshop by video conference using Zoom, but we are having some technical challenges. Anyway, we are recording this for, especially for Anandita. I hope, Anandita, you are watching, and we're just going to do a few, we're going to have a little conversation and watch a little video. So now, Debalina went away, but maybe she'll come back. Preeti, why don't you just say a few words for this, for Anandita, who she doesn't know you. Can you just say a few words about yourself and your work?
Yeah, sure. Hi, and her name is Anandita, right? Hi, Anandita. I'm Preeti from Madurai, Tamil Nadu. I own a bookstore and a lending library here. I am in this trade for the past 20 years. So storytelling is my passion. So I just wanted to learn more techniques from Mr. Eric, so I am joining with Zoom. That's it.
Wonderful. And Sureka, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi Anandita and Mr. Eric and Preeti and Debalina. I'm Sureka. I'm a homemaker. I have 2 children, and I got this interest of storytelling and all after grooming my daughter. Wanted to really equip myself on the particular aspect, and that's the reason I came to know about Eric sir through one of my friends, and that's the reason I thought I'll enroll for the class.
Wonderful. And please, everyone, don't call me sir anymore. Eric, my name is Eric, E-R-I-C, that's plenty. As everyone here probably knows, I am from New York City, but now I'm settled in Chennai. And about 12 years ago, myself and others founded the World Storytelling Institute in Chennai. And for 12 years, we've been having workshops, and we've had a festival, Chennai Storytelling Festival, this will be the 8th year coming up.
Okay.
So now what we're trying to do now is this storytelling workshop by video conference. It is actually, these kind of things are happening many places in the world now. Not just for storytelling, but a lot of college courses are happening by video conference, and especially using this program that we're using called Zoom. It has really made a big change in the academic world. So now we are, Debalina I think is coming back. Debalina, you're just in time. Will you say a few words to introduce yourself to Anandita and also to Preeti and Sureka?
Sorry, I missed that part out.
Yes, yes. Please say a few words to introduce yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Myself, I'm Debalina. I'm a teacher of professional communication in an engineering college. And it has been my passion always with like fairy tales, Russian fairy tales, storytelling. It has always been so. So right now, it's like a serendipity that I'm finding. There could be a course out there which could actually train me, teach me to be a storyteller, because I believe I have immense potential to become a storyteller. So I would love to hear your stories.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so what we're doing here is we are thinking about stories, and we will be telling stories, but sometimes people in this workshop also like to write stories. So, you know, when people say storytelling, it really technically refers only to speaking. But now many people also, they will say a cinema director is a great storyteller, a novelist is a great storyteller. So, so we have to include all those other methods of presenting stories that will also be considered here. So there's really two parts to this. One is the stories themselves, thinking about them, creating them, and the other part is the method by which the stories are shared. Okay? Now,
Sure.
I've had discussions with my teacher for 45 years about what happens when people tell stories by telephone and by video conference. Can we call it storytelling? And she feels no, we should not really call it storytelling. It is something else. It is sharing stories through electronic technology. So it is open to debate. But the fact that we can see each other and hear each other with only a slight delay, that makes it very storytelling-ish. Because a key aspect of storytelling is that we can all give feedback to each other as the event is going on. So we can do that, but of course, it's very different than being in the same room with people. Really, the way I think of this is that it is as if we all have some kind of neurological problem where we are trying to formulate our words and we are trying to understand each other's words, but we are having a slight delay because of some neurological challenge. So it is, it's unfortunate that we have this neurological challenge, but still it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it. We are a little bit challenged, but still we are stumbling along, trying to interact with each other. So in this workshop, if this workshop is really going to happen, and I'm still not totally convinced we're going to go through with this workshop, but let's hope it happens. Each participant, by the way, I have put each of you on mute now, just so there's no echo. Sometimes there's a little buzzing sound or some sound, but I think you can take yourself off mute when you want. Each person in this workshop, which goes a total of 8 weeks, will choose an animal fable, a Panchatantra story. That is the simplest type of story in a sense. And those are the stories that we tell to very young children. Then the next week, I will invite you to tell stories about your own life, including the mother of all stories, which is the story of your life. And in a small group like this, I think we should all, I don't know, we will decide if we will go into small groups and tell it two by two, or if we will tell it just to the group. But the activity is to tell the story of your life in 10 minutes as a story. And a value of that is that, first of all, it's a challenge as in to edit, to bring out the most important points in 10 minutes. It's a big editing challenge. And also it will remind you of the types of relationships and the types of experiences that you have a lot of experience with, that you have some expertise in. Writers, people who write cinema and novelists, they develop favorite relationships and situations that they like to write about. Some will focus on husband and wife relationship. Some will focus on mother-daughter, mother-son. Some will focus on husband and wife. To tell your life in 10 minutes will remind you of what have been the most important relationships in your life, what have been the most challenging relationships, and it will give you ideas about what kind of stories you want to tell, or what kind of stories you want to create. So as I say, sometimes in these groups, people tell just one other person. Sometimes they tell the whole group. We'll decide at the time. Usually that session we do not record. today we are recording especially for Anandita, who is not here today, but she has paid for the course, but she's not here, so we are recording for her. But with that life story next week, we will not record. You know, when you do that activity, many times people don't want to talk about too many personal things. So you can focus it on what do you really love to do. If you love to be a homemaker, if you love to be a bookshop owner, if you love to be a teacher, when did you first discover that you really love that and that you have some talent in that? And how have you developed that talent? That is one way to tell a life story. Another way is to pretend that a big newspaper has called and they want to do a feature article about you and your work. Most of us would not turn that down, especially Preeti and Debalina, and myself, because we are entrepreneurs and we appreciate publicity. So if a newspaper article would be written about you and your life, what would the title of the article be? And what would be, you know, what would be the beginning and the middle and the end? So anyway, that is the second session. And then there is a session on choose an episode from an epic, or it can be from literature or history. And then choose a fairy tale, either Indian or Western. And along the way, people also create stories in this workshop. There's no schedule for that. They just, sometimes spontaneously, they come up with a story. And of course, they're welcome to share it. And then in the last two sessions, it's totally dedicated to the participants telling stories, and we would record it. And then at the next session, we would play it back and discuss it. So, so that is the variety of stories in this workshop. Any comments or questions so far? No? You'll notice that the three stories, the animal story,
Fables, life history, and epics. 3 sessions.
Yeah, the animal stories, the episode of an epic, and the fairy tales, those are very different types of stories. Because an episode of an epic, many people consider that history. And it's also devotional. It is also sacred to people, you know, the epics are the story of Ram and the Mahabharata. Hindu people consider that it's mythology, but it's also considered history. So we have to respect that. And that is very different from a fairy tale. It's the opposite of a fairy tale, in the sense that fairy tales, we know the fairy tale didn't happen, right? We know it's just a fantasy. But in India, all 3 of these stories are considered in the category of grandmother stories, right? Even episodes from an epic can be a grandmother story. So, so those are the stories that are told. And my teacher, Laura Sims, who may be coming to Chennai in February for the Storytelling Festival here.
Okay.
She has a special style. She kind of mixes mythology with personal stories. She will take a story from ancient myth of one culture or another. She will tell that story. For example, she likes to tell the story of Persephone. Persephone was a young woman in ancient Greece who was playing the field, and she was picking flowers, and then the earth opened up, and the god of the underworld took her and kept her. And I think actually it was her father. Her father was the god of the underworld. So her mother, who was also a divine figure, was heartbroken. And her mother went looking for her all over the world. and refused to let the flowers grow. Her mother really was Mother Nature. But her mother was so upset and so heartbroken, she was not able to grow the plants. And so it was perpetual winter on Earth because she could not find her daughter. I think finally she finds the daughter and they work out a compromise. Persephone spends half the year with her father underground and half the year with her mother. And that explains why, at least in the northern hemisphere, half the year it's cold and nothing grows, and half the year it's warm. But what Laura does is she takes that story, and along the way she'll stop and tell events from her own life with her own mother, or she'll tell other stories from other cultures. She mixes them together, but following similar themes of mother-daughter, separation, togetherness, and so forth. So that's also very interesting. Maybe in here, you are invited, if you want to try to do that. Take something from an epic, something from a myth, and tell it next to something from your own life. Any questions or comments about what I've just been talking about?
So next week it's going to be only the animal fable, isn't it?
Correct. It's easy.
Next session.
Next week, we see we're warming up slowly.
Okay.
Animal means, the rabbit and the turtle have a race. And
Hare and tortoise.
the turtle,
And tortoise.
the hare and the tortoise. I like to say
Hare and
rabbit and turtle. And the rabbit is quick, but not dependable. He goes to sleep in the middle of the race, right? But the turtle is...
So what's the time slot for every story?
The what?
What's the time slot, duration of every story?
Most stories we tell here will be brief, 5 to 7 minutes, because for one thing, in the video conference, we want to stop every couple of minutes and make sure the other people can hear us. So that is a special motivational factor that nobody should give a long lecture. Even I will try to keep my comments brief. Yeah, so next week is the animals. And, in terms of story, these animals are not just animals. They can all be seen as representing aspects of the human personality. So there's a part of each one of us that is slow and steady. There's a part of each one of us that is quick, but not always careful, not always dependable. And down the line, the fox, in every culture, the fox is clever, right? You don't know exactly where the fox is going to go. My professor for my PhD at University of Pennsylvania, he used to love to talk about creatures like creatures that can cross boundaries. Like, for example, rats, mice and rats. We want them to stay outside, but sometimes they get inside, right? And we think they have filth, that they may have disease, we don't like them. Similarly, cockroaches. We hate it when we see cockroaches, right? Because we think they're dirty and they're disgusting. We try to keep them out, but somehow they get in. The worst ones are termites, because termites not only cross the boundary, they destroy the boundary. They eat the wall, and if it's allowed, the whole structure will crumble because of their behavior. So so there's a part of us that's like that too, right? People tell us, you stay over there, mind your own business. Don't ask, don't tell, just stay over there. But we won't want to stay over there, right? We'll want to find out what's going on. We'll get involved. We'll find out it's a secret. We might tell somebody secret. we'll get in trouble.
That's nature.
Yeah. So these different animals can be seen as representing different parts of us. That's all I wanted to say. Okay, another thing I want to say about story, and this is especially for those of you who are thinking about maybe one day writing a movie or writing a novel or a short story. When you create a story, the story needs to speak to the conditions of the moment. What are some of the conditions of the moment in Tamil Nadu, in Kanpur, in India, and globally? Let's just stop and think. What makes our time now different from the way it was 20 years ago or 100 years ago? Any thoughts? What are some unique aspects of our day and age?
Well, if you could see it, we are actually making fairy tale possible in a different way. Okay, what was fairy tale at that point of time is actually possible through technological intervention, that we are having this conversation even.
Okay, so the great advances in communication technology, that first it was just broadcast, radio and television. Then around, I don't know, when did email begin? 1980s, something? 1985, something like that. Simple computers that only had one color. It was only black and white. And then since 1985, things have exploded, right? Email, then the websites, then the smartphone, and now it's come to this. This video conferencing is it's really it's a tremendous step forward. And we're having some difficulty, right? We're not all seeing each other, and there's some audio problems. These are just little bumps in the road that most people in the world that will overcome this. Soon, 10 years from now, everyone will be doing this all day long, just like a telephone call. Okay, good. So this is one big difference from life 20 years ago and 100 years ago. What else is unique to our time and age?
I guess we have crashed down a lot of barriers, cultural barrier, gender barrier. This is wonderful. We are actually interacting as human beings.
Yes.
We can think cross-cultural. We could not even think of talking to a person of different gender. Like this is great. We would have come issues talking to a person from another continent, but all we are now interacting, we are connecting at the spiritual, at the direct human level, and talking about different cultures. So it's great. It's a great mixture.
Wonderful. Okay, so both through telecommunication and travel, there's a great deal more communication with outsiders than there used to be.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And then I will add to that there's a lot more choice. There's a sociological term, communities of choice. We can choose the communities we join. It used to be, not so long ago, that you were born in a certain place and your parents had certain professions, and then you would do the same thing. Whether because it was in the same caste or the same place or the same social economic level, most people did not have a choice to change. But now, if you can learn a little English and if you can figure out how to work a mobile telephone or a computer, you can
travel wherever you want.
You can go anywhere. So it gives a lot more choice, personal responsibility, but also a great deal more anxiety, because many people are desperate, scared that they will not be able to make a living in some new profession. And if they can't make a living, they can't get married, and they will be living in shame. And, you know, a lot of people commit suicide because of this. So a lot of opportunity, but also a lot of anxiety. Okay, and I will also add the big environmental issue of global warming, right? India is having a big heat wave, more than any other country in the world now. I read every day, I read my hometown newspaper on the internet. You know, I live in Chennai, but I read the New York Times every day on the web. And on the front page of the New York Times, it is saying India is having this drought and heat wave, record hot temperatures. And Chennai is the of all the cities in the world, Chennai is having the biggest water crisis. That all of the lakes have dried, many of the lakes have dried up, and
groundwater is not.
Yeah,
no groundwater.
No groundwater, and the water is coming in trucks from someplace, and the government officials saying it's not our fault, it's somebody else's fault.
Even today's newspaper I saw many hotels, they shut down their business,
Yes.
but government asked them to open it. And many schools, also private schools, they can't
Yes,
able to run
yes.
with water.
My
So,
daughter's
but
school
government
closed
is
for
forcing
one
them
day.
to open the school.
Yeah. And also this 2 weeks ago, myself and family, we went to the Kerala border on our holiday to a tiger reserve. The forest is dwindling because of no rain. It is this was near Topslip, near Coimbatore,
Pollachi?
near
Topslip?
Pollachi, near Coimbatore.
Yeah.
Topslip, near the Kerala border. The vegetation is drying out, even in the forest. Even if they don't cut it, you know, it's bad enough if they cut it down. But even if they don't cut it down, just from lack of water, it's thinning out. And of course, we know, at least in Tamil Nadu, most of the rivers have dried up. So it's very, it's sad, and but what to do, right? As an individual, there's very limited amounts of things we can do. So this is part of what is in the air. In the air, when I say ideas, we are all aware of these things. So I think any story that if you're going for, depending on if you're going for an audience